have some blunt words for you. If we don't face the harsh reality, then we also will not have the fortitude to fight for the solution. And it will be a fight. I'm Diane Sare, independent candidate for U.S. Senate in 2022, the seat currently occupied by Chuck Schumer. First, you should know that I am a 32-year associate of the late Lyndon LaRouche, an American genius who built his organization, including his 8 campaigns for the U.S. presidency here in New York City. He was hated by the same British liberal establishment, the news media, Wall Street, Hollywood, and the intelligence agencies, which hate President Trump, and it is my intention that they will come to hate me as well. LaRouche considered Manhattan to be the historical center of the United States. I agree. In 1789, George Washington was sworn in as our first president at Federal Hall. Prior to that, New Yorkers Alexander Hamilton and John Jay, along with James Madison, wrote, published, and distributed the Federalist Papers to recruit the nation to adopt what became the Constitution of the United States of America. Therefore, the deliberate destruction of New York City is not only not acceptable, but if this city is destroyed, we lose the soul of our republic. I'm going to give you some numbers which show the footprint of the collapse, but like a footprint, they are not the same thing as the foot. They are just indicators of something much bigger. I would like to add here that while Mayor Bill de Blasio is not solely responsible for the destruction of the city, which has occurred over decades, his policies are at best insane, more likely willfully criminal, or perhaps more accurately, criminally insane. Remember, while I give you these terrifying numbers, that all of this can be solved. 33,000 New Yorkers died in 2020 from COVID-19, at least 6,600 in nursing homes. No one actually knows those numbers because many of them died in the hospital. In New York City, by September 15, 2020, 1,348 people had been shot, 321 of them killed. This is double the number shot at the same time last year, of whom 230 died. By May, at least 420,000 people have moved out of the city, about 5% of the population, and it's probably more by now due to the closing of schools and businesses and de Blasio's decision to move 13,000 homeless people, among them drug addicts and convicts, into luxury hotels and residential neighborhoods without the staffing or the programs to assist them. De Blasio also cut back public trash basket pickup from 736 runs per week to 400 runs per week. However, this is compounded by the fact that people are now working from home, generating more residential waste, not to mention the stuff they're throwing out as they move out of the city. The rats are thriving. In May, it was reported that 25% of apartment renters had not paid their rent since March. Who knows what that is now, and I don't think the property owners are going to forgive 10 months of rent when the forbearance period is over. The city is also not likely to forgive the property taxes owned by the property owners, unless, of course, they're billionaires, the Yankee Stadium and Madison Square Garden, which don't pay property taxes. No one really knows how many restaurants have closed forever. It's well over 1,000, and 87% of the remaining ones could not afford to pay all or even part of their rent in August. Office space is estimated to be at 10% occupancy, and no one can tell because of the forbearance policy. How do you solve this? With Pelosi's stimulus bill? Should we give the renters each a $20,000 check? We've given the New York Federal Reserve at least $4 trillion so far. You might argue that paying renters would be more equitable. It's legitimate to ask why all those billionaire drug money launderers with the morality of Jeffrey Epstein should keep getting bailed out and never prosecuted. You can ask Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch why no bankers have gone to jail since 2008. Shall we just continue to give people checks while they remain idle and the city rots? Will it make the city more livable to fire the police officers, other first responders, and sanitation workers? Should we charge people $25 per ride on the subway? Maybe we should increase the parking meter cost to $10 per minute. They're almost that now. It should be obvious if you think about it for a minute, and I literally couldn't find figures for much of anything after August. I think they're scared to mention it. Sort of like a little man standing at the base of the snow-covered Swiss Alps in the springtime. One little whisper, and the most spectacular avalanche comes roaring down the mountain. The crisis cannot be solved in the paradigm which created it. There is no amount of printing money or not printing money, cryptocurrency, raising taxes, cutting taxes that will address this. As LaRouche said many times, money is an idiot. The only thing that will work, and it will work very well, but it requires courage, is to scrap the whole rotten, bankrupt system, preferably before it collapses on your head and wipes out everything in one chaotic plunge. Think about it this way. Maybe the so-called service economy wasn't such a great idea. Maybe more people should be building things, growing food, cleaning the filthy streets, not to mention designing and building great infrastructure projects like a national high-speed rail corridor, building a few hundred nuclear power plants to power it, including modernizing the electrical grid with cables underground so 20 minutes of wind doesn't leave several thousand people around Albany without electricity for days. We have become like a third world country, and the pandemic merely showed how vulnerable our infrastructure and supply chains were all along. So let's act like Americans.
Yes, we'll rally round the flag, boys, we'll rally once again. Shouting the battle cry of freedom. We will rally from the hillside, we'll gather from the plain. Shouting the battle cry of freedom.
We have built our way out of disasters in the past. President Lincoln built the Transcontinental Railroad in the middle of a war which took 600,000 lives. President Franklin Roosevelt created a massive productive workforce which was able to churn out the tanks and the planes needed by us and our allies, including Russia and China, to defeat fascism in Europe and Asia 75 years ago. Senator Schumer, Mayor de Blasio, and Joe Biden, who's not sure if he's running for president or Senate, are all owned by the same British slime mold which I identified earlier. All of them must be defeated and probably prosecuted. I believe the people of New York have the grit, intelligence, and humanity to lead the way out of this mess. And I'm asking you to join me in doing exactly that. I'm Diane Sare, and I approve this message.